Name is Elder Price, and I would like to share this book. Hello, my name is Elder Grant. It's a book about America a long, long time ago. It has so many awesome parts. You simply won't believe how much this book can change your life. Hello, my name is Elder Green. I would like to share with you this book of Jesus Christ. Hello, my name is Elder Young. Hello, did you know that Jesus lived here in the USA? You can read all about it now.
Well, hello. My name is Doug Bundy. I used to be Elder Bundy as a missionary, but today I'm your host on Voices from the Dust TV for Thursday, the 5th day of 2014. We welcome you to our show today where we share the reason for the hope within us, the reason why Latter-day Saints are Christians, and the reason why you should be too. Our message not only explains what distinguishes LDS doctrine from non-LDS doctrine, but also why we declare that the only salvation remaining for the Gentiles is for them to repent, to be baptized, and thus to be identified in the same covenant and to worship at the same altar as Israel. You can find past episodes of our show on our website, voicesfromthedust.org. Just go there, click on the item in the menu labeled TV, and there you can watch the program live, or you can select one of the links to our YouTube channel or our Google Plus or Facebook page, all entitled Voices from the Dust, where you can watch it live and also access past programs. Excuse me. On our Facebook page, just click the tab labeled KVFD TV Live in the upper right-hand portion of the page, or on KVFD TV Archives to watch yesterday's programs. Well, we had Roy here for a while, but he disappeared, and then Sam came on. Good morning, Sam. Sam is Elder Richardson, Elder Sam Richardson, and one of our regular guests, and we want to welcome him here this morning.
Good morning, Doug.
Good morning. I don't know what happened to Roy. He dropped off just shortly before we started the broadcast. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing not too bad. I've got some allergies that I'm fighting. Other than that, I'm doing good.
Oh, yeah. When the weather turns nice and sunny, then out comes all the what do they call them?
Hay fever and allergies?
Yeah, allergens or something.
Oh, allergens, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people suffer from that. But, well, we hope everything will work out. Today, our Whispers Out of the Ground is taken from chapter 29 of 2nd Nephi. So let's go to that. It's going to tie into the rest of the show. And we'll want to listen to it carefully now.
But behold, there shall be many at that day when I shall proceed to do a marvelous work among them, that I may remember my covenants which I have made unto the children of men, that I may set my hand again the second time to recover my people which are of the house of Israel. And also that I may remember the promises which I have made unto thee, Nephi, and also unto thy father, that I would remember your seed, and that the words of your seed should proceed forth out of my mouth unto your seed. And my word shall hiss forth unto the ends of the earth, for a standard unto my people which are of the house of Israel. And because my word shall hiss forth, many of the Gentiles shall say, A Bible? A Bible? We have got a Bible, and there cannot be any more Bible. For thus saith the Lord God, O fools, they shall have a Bible, and it shall proceed forth from the Jews, mine ancient covenant people. And what thank they the Jews for the Bible which they receive from them? Yea, what do the Gentiles mean? Do they remember the travails and the labors and the pains of the Jews, and their diligence unto me in bringing forth salvation unto the Gentiles? O ye Gentiles, have ye remembered the Jews, mine ancient covenant people? Nay, But ye have cursed them, and have hated them, and have not sought to recover them. But behold, I will return all these things upon your own heads, for I the Lord have not forgotten my people. Thou fool that shalt say, A Bible, we have got a Bible, and we need no more Bible. Have ye obtained a Bible, save it were by the Jews? Know ye not that there are more nations than one? Know ye not that I, the Lord your God, have created all men, and that I remember those who are upon the isles of the sea, and that I rule in the heavens above and in the earth beneath? And I bring forth my word unto the children of men, yea, even upon all the nations of the earth. Wherefore murmur ye, because that ye shall receive more of my word? Know ye not that the testimony of 2 nations is a witness unto you that I am God, that I remember one nation like unto another? Wherefore I speak the same words unto one nation like unto another. And when the 2 nations shall run together, the testimony of the 2 nations shall run together also. And I do this that I may prove unto many that I am the same, yesterday, today, and forever, and that I speak forth my words according to mine own pleasure. And because that I have spoken one word, ye need not suppose that I cannot speak another. For my work is not yet finished, neither shall it be until the end of man, neither from that time henceforth and forever. Wherefore, because that ye have a Bible, ye need not suppose that it contains all my words. Neither need ye suppose that I have not caused more to be written. For I command all men, both in the east and in the west, and in the north and in the south, and in the islands of the sea, that they shall write the words which I speak unto them. For out of the books which shall be written I will judge the world, every man according to their works, according to that which is written. For behold, I shall speak unto the Jews, and they shall write it. And I shall also speak unto the Nephites, and they shall write it. And I shall also speak unto the other tribes of the house of Israel, which I have led away, and they shall write it. And I shall also speak unto all nations of the earth, and they shall write it. And it shall come to pass that the Jews shall have the words of the Nephites, and the Nephites shall have the words of the Jews, and the Nephites and the Jews shall have the words of the lost tribes of Israel, and the lost tribes of Israel shall have the words of the Nephites and the Jews. And it shall come to pass that my people which are of the house of Israel shall be gathered home unto the lands of their possessions, and my word also shall be gathered in one. And I will show unto them that fight against my word and against my people who are of the house of Israel, that I am God, and that I covenanted with Abraham, that I would remember his seed forever.
Wow. So yesterday we talked about the fullness of the gospel, and we see here in this chapter a very expansive view of what the fullness of the gospel is. That the Lord has set his hand again the second time to gather his people is part of the good news of Christ. It's the good news of his servants, that they shall have the testimonies of one another, that the Lord shall set them up in the lands of their inheritances, that he shall clean them of their sins, cleanse them of their sins, and that he will set them up, and that the Gentiles will have no power over them, but that they will become the servants and lick up the dust. They will become the nursing fathers and the nursing mothers of Israel and lick up the dust from their feet. Man alive, this is very clear. But I remember as a young man in Denver, I called into a Christian talk show on the radio there, and was trying to bring, of course, at that time the Mormons weren't really, in the crosshairs so much as they are today. But I remember the pastor, one of his objections, it was this idea that in the Book of Mormon, the Lord is calling the Gentiles fools, oh fools, he says. Well, he pointed out that the Lord commanded us not to call others fools, but here it was calling these people fools in the Book of Mormon. But it's the voice of God. It's in the first person here. I suppose he can call them fools if he wants to. So that always comes to mind when I read this passage. Did you have any comment you'd like to make on it there, Sam?
No, I wasn't thinking of a comment, but it is. We will someday see this come to pass when we'll have scriptures all over the place, and then it'll be hard to deny the things of the Book of Mormon and of the church that people have been doing all these decades.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, we have all these records. We will have not only the records of the Nephites that we have now, the abridgment, which we call the Book of Mormon after the Prophet Mormon, but we'll also have the brass plates, and we'll also have the sealed portion of the Book of Mormon that came from the Jaredites, and they weren't even part of the house of Israel. That will be revealed at some point. But here we see the highway. We can see in our minds that the highway would be cast up, that only the righteous can pass over, and they will come to Zion in America that's built there. The 10 tribes come to Zion singing songs of gratitude and blessing and bringing their records with them. And man, what a fantastic thing that will be. But by the time that happens, those who have rejected it, to whom he's addressing here when he says, woe unto them, I will show unto them that fight against my word and against my people who are of the house of Israel, that I am God. Wow. That's, I wouldn't want to be shown that he is God that way, because I think it'll ring in their ears a little louder than what has been now. And he says, and that I covenanted with Abraham that I would remember his seed forever. See, for people to ignore this and call themselves Christians and not understand this is amazing. Well, anyway, so there we have it. Now, moving on to our... oh, go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, the Bible talks so much of the house of Israel and the restoration of the house of Israel, but no Christian church is in place that pretends to help aid that restoration and the fulfillment of that promise.
That's right. Yeah, and they don't know what to do with it. You know, as we talked before in past episodes, people can go back and see. We have these dispensationalists that believe one way, and then the covenant theology that believes another way, but none of them can really handle the promises. One of them says, well, those promises no longer apply to the Jews, they apply to Christians, the Gentile Christians of the church. And that the church has taken the place of the Jews in the covenant. And of course that's ridiculous. The Lord doesn't talk about that at all in the Bible. You can't find that anywhere in the Bible. But what you can find is that he will restore the Jews. So the dispensationalists, they say that, yeah, the Lord will restore the Jews, but not until after the church has been raptured up and Christ returns to the earth. I had an interesting conversation, and I talked about it in one of my past episodes. I think it might have been before you were joining us here, Sam. But the thing is that it was an interview that I tried to have. I didn't get it captured. Something went wrong technically, but I went up to the church here and I talked to one of these pastors and I asked him that question, you know, and he was totally unaware. I mean, this guy had been through all the schools and the seminaries and everything, and was currently a pastor of one of the people that had interviewed me on TV or on the internet, but he had no idea. And so it was, I can't remember the details of it, but it was interesting to see that they do not understand this. They concentrate on Jesus. Jesus, I love you. Jesus, I'm so happy, you know, that you saved me. Praise your holy name, and that's all good. But they do it. You know, it's like Paul said of the ancient Jews that didn't believe. You know, he witnessed to their zeal. They had a zeal, but not after knowledge. Well, in our awful situation update today, it's kind of related as we take a look at the persecution of Christians that's happening. Because of their not being identified with the house of Israel, they are beginning to be persecuted by the Muslims. It's mounting all over the world. If the atrocities against the Christians that are perpetrated by the Muslims were reported fairly in the legacy press, or even in the new press, the new media press, the world might have compassion on the Christians. But we can assuredly see that, and we can see clearly, we can be assured and see clearly that if the roles were reversed, and it were the Muslims that were suffering these things that the Christians are now suffering, the world would virtually stop. It would come to a stop. It would be paralyzed by the public shock and outrage expressed on every side and trumpeted all over the world. But it's not with the Christians, and so now we can see how controlled the public mind is. You have to understand why the globalists prefer that the Christian persecution not be reacted to, that there not be a public outrage over it, that the public might not rise up against it, because they're the ones behind it. And so we can see how controlled the public mind is by the powers that be. It is concerned by the things that the powers that be want it to be concerned about. That is, the public are only concerned about those things that the globalists want them to be concerned about and to rise up about, and not concerned by those things that they don't want it to be concerned about. From Bilderberger meetings where these things are planned and discussed and reacted to in secret by government leaders and royalty and businessmen of corporate giant corporations and so on, and they meet there, and we'll talk about that at some point. But the media, first of all, denied it ever existed, called people nuts. Now that they have to admit it, that it's actual reality, they just ignore it. They still don't report it, even though it turns out that, you see, those who were blowing the whistle on this thing were right from the beginning. And so now, if they don't want, the globalists don't want them to be concerned, to know anything, to become alarmed because of the Bilderberger meetings, unlawful meetings, and they don't want them to know about the Christian persecution, so it doesn't happen. In contrast, though, to the legacy media's blackout of worldwide Christian persecution, some of it, not much of it, but some of it is coming through the new media. And we can take a look at that with this report that is coming from InfoWars Nightly News, which we can play here now. I'm going to play it on two computers so that we can see and hear the video. It's hard, though, to coordinate it, so you might see that while it's on, you can both see and hear it. It may not be coordinated because they have to do it on two computers. How ridiculous that is.
Now, an article on InfoWars today from the American Dream, Michael Snyder, he asked, why does Christian persecution always get worse in every country that the U.S. liberates, quote unquote? He says, when the U.S. liberates a nation, shouldn't it just result in more liberty and freedom? But instead, we find just the opposite. Every nation that we've liberated since 9/11, the persecution of Christians in that country has become much worse. And he talks about Afghanistan, where there's not a single church left after 12 years of us being there, or Iraq, where before the invasion there were estimated 2 million Christians there. Now that's down to those for now, Al-Qaeda has been put in control, and churches are being bombed, and being tortured and killed. And then, of course, in Syria, the administration is trying to get Al-Qaeda in there as they are in Libya. Finally, he looks at Boko Haram, and he says, what has the Obama administration been doing about Boko Haram previously? Because before these children, these young girls were kidnapped, there was a horrendous campaign of torture conducted against Christian churches there. He points out Christian groups estimate that up to 250,000 people killed by Boko Haram since 2009 have been Christians, and more than 700 churches in Nigeria have been attacked in the past 7 years. Well, why is this root of evil? Well, one Italian prime minister says it's the Bilderberg Group, and he makes a pretty good case for it. They're very sensitive to this in Italy, because you have to remember that in Italy, their duly elected prime minister was taken out of office and replaced by a Goldman Sachs banker that nobody voted for. Nigel Farage has pointed this out. Many people have pointed this out. And Paul Joseph Watson writes that Borghesio, a member of the Committee on Civil Liberties, Justice, and Home Affairs in the European Parliament, and an Italian politician, says that the root of all evil that afflicts Italy is the Bilderberg Group. It's causing employment, poverty, and taxes. And of course, there was another Italian lawyer, Alfonso Luigi Mara, who last year requested that the public prosecutor of Rome investigate the Bilderberg Group for criminal activity because they deposed the legitimate elected prime minister in Italy and replaced him with Mario Monti. Paul Joseph Watson continues, he says, counter to cliches settled by the mainstream media that Bilderberg merely represents a talking shop, there's numerous examples of the clandestine group formulating consensus for policy that's implemented soon after that. And it's important to note, as we're going to be going to Bilderberg, that 2000 lawyer attempted to get into the meeting in Switzerland, and he was beaten by security guards there.
Globalist social engineers are not just targeting us with propaganda. They are manipulating.
Okay. Let me try to do all this once. I need to be an octopus with lots of different arms and hands and stuff. But that is being that really indicates the problem, and it becomes really ironic because the future of Christians in America is very bleak, as Muslims have occupied the White House together with the communists for some time now. The residue of the heathen, as the Lord puts it, in Idumea, he calls them in the book of Ezekiel. So because of that, the government is being seated, if you will, with all of these Muslims who are, of course, as much against Christianity as they are in other countries, but they can't show it yet. And of course, the communists have always been. And at the top of all that, as this report just showed, are the globalists and the Luciferian globalists who are determined to take over the world through the subversion of government and so on. Well, we've talked a lot about it, but there's the author of a book called Crucified Again. His name is Raymond Ibrahim, obviously a Muslim name, and he clearly exposes the evil deeds and intentions of these anti-Christians in the White House. He was interviewed on a Canadian show, video of which I found embedded in an article entitled "The U.S. Becomes Chief Enabler of Christian Persecution." And that article, I think I can show that. Oh, maybe I had it for a while, and yeah, too bad. I had that article up. I was going to screen share with you, but before I do that, let me screen share this other article on WorldNet Daily, and which shows graphically the persecution that's going on. It's entitled "The Worst Places on Earth for Christians," and you see this map. It says Washington. Somewhere around the world, another Christian is martyred on average every 3 hours, according to a new report that identifies nations where radical Islamists, still using that word, radical Islamists, are abundant as the worst locations on earth for Christians to be. Now that's dated, or is published 17 hours ago, so that's about as current as you can get. And you see it's starting in the United States here, but over there where they have complete control, they want, I mean, you can see the persecution is really, really severe. Here it's just starting, but that shows us what is coming in the future. Now, let's go to this video by this guy named, well, it's an interview again of Raymond Ibrahim, and let's see what we, again, bear with me, I got to play it on 2 computers here, so it'll take a little while to get it going.
Good evening. Welcome to the Glass Off Gang. We have another very special episode. Special guest this evening, Raymond, the David Horowitz's Freedom Center's Shillman Fellow, and he's the author of the new book, Crucified Again, Exposing Islam's New War on Christians. Raymond, welcome to the Glass Off Gang.
How are you, Jamie? Good to be with you.
Great, and it's great to have you on our gang, especially somebody strong as yourself.
Thank you.
So you've really added power to our force.
I appreciate that.
Raymond, something I very much appreciate is that you've written this book, Crucified Again, about the genocide occurring against Christians all over the world. The media is silent about it, the culture is completely ignorant about it, and you are shining a light on this tragedy and on this crime. Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write this book and what it's about.
Sure, Jamie. What inspired me to write it is the fact that, as you sort of intimated, there's this great gap in the knowledge. The media has been woefully negligent, if not complicit, in the fact that in covering up what's happening. So I felt the need to try to fill this void by producing my book, and that's basically why I did it. Insofar as the non-stop aggression and, in short, in a word, persecution of Christians from one end of the Islamic world to the other. And that's actually a point that I really wanted to bring out in the book, is that the same exact patterns that you see, for example, you're familiar, of course, with what happened in Egypt after the Muslim Brotherhood were ousted, and you know, then they were in their the Brotherhood camps, Radaway, and these places, and then right after they got ousted by the military, they went on a church burning spree. In less than 2 weeks, they burned or destroyed anywhere up to 80 churches, and even are actually over 1,000 years old. These churches, in fact, some of the damages done, including to an Egyptian museum right now, a church, old church in the antiquities. And the people who did this are barbarians of civilization. They say, we know that we did it. It's a brother. Supporters, but that pattern that you saw, church attacks, you will find in the book, happens all throughout the Islamic world. It happens as far as Indonesia and the Philippines, happens far south or South Africa, and it even happens in Europe, to where you have large numbers of Muslims. And so the point that I was trying to draw out is there's a pattern here. It's not just some aberration that happens due to, you know, some sort of sectarian conflict that's particular to one region or one country. No, it's happening everywhere. And the themes that I really I brought out in the book include attacks on Christian worship, which in this sense is attacks on churches, attacks on monasteries, attacks on the cross itself. And so not only did I try to bring to you the wide scope of this Philippines and so forth, but I also go back into history to show you that the patterns are there as well. And so attacks on churches, attacks on monasteries, attacks on crosses go back to 1400 years. They go back to Muhammad himself actually used to break the cross. And I don't know if you remember, but a couple of years ago in Libya, they were kicking a cemetery, a World War II cemetery or one, and they were busting the crosses, screaming, "Break the crosses of the dogs," which is a phrase that comes from early Islamic history. So I was trying to show the continuity between the persecution of Christians and the patterns, and how all of these patterns are both. And as a Christian worship, there's Christian freedom, which means, the freedom of a Christian is being suppressed in all throughout these Islamic world by blasphemy laws, which is basically if a Christian says anything that can be construed as offensive to the Prophet Muhammad or to Islam, he can be attacked, killed. This happens randomly. Apostasy. He doesn't have the freedom if he wants to leave Islam, like Christianity, and often people are killed or jailed because they want to. And proselytism, which is no freedom of speech. You can't go and proselytize to Muslims because all of those are banned in the doctrines. All of them have been features of Islamic history where people have been killed, and all of them today, from one end of the Islamic world to the other, are back. And that's why I wanted to bring it all out.
Thank you so much, Raymond. So much to talk about here. Let me ask you this. Lately with Obama, and he wants to hit Syria, we need to hit Assad because there's these victims of chemical attacks. And look, yes, our hearts bleed for victims. I'm very interested in indignation. I'm very interested in selectivity of who we cry for and who we don't cry for. What I'm interested in is we have an American president. He's supposedly a Christian. You just said and told us what was happening in Egypt when the Brotherhood, they had rape gangs, they were burning churches. There is a literal genocide occurring against Christians in both the Middle East and North Africa. Why doesn't Obama want to send in troops and protect the Christians there? Why isn't he making announcements about that? Why are Syrian lives taken by Assad more worthy than Egyptian Christian lives that are being massacred by Egypt?
You're actually making a very important point, which is the sheer hypocrisy of this, call for war because of, purported use of chemical weapons, even though it depends on who you talk to, the UN, the Russians, who used it, we don't know. Indicators are that it's actually the rebels. It's more logical because it doesn't make sense why Assad would use it the day that they're coming to visit him, as other people have pointed out. But needless to say, from one end of the Islamic world to the other, people are killed. Christians. Don't hear anything. Why did he not intervene? Now, to put this in context, is not only intervene to help Christians, it actually enables the persecution of Christians. And I'll just give you a quick rundown.
The Obama administration is the side of the people who are butchering Christians.
Exactly. It's empowering them. So let's start from let's start with Libya. Okay. Libya, we knew Al Qaeda was there. We helped them militarily. They got rid of the bad guy Gaddafi. We got Benghazi in return. That was the thanks for helping. And it was on 9/11 because they wanted Americans to know this is here you go, payback for 9/11. But then what happened to there's a very small Christian community in Libya. Immediately, unprecedented in the modern era. At least I think 3 churches have been attacked in Libya just in the last year, bombed, burned. Nuns that have been in the nation since 1920, helping the poor and needy, have been attacked, evicted, thrown out. These are the groups of people that the Obama administration empowered. In Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood, of all people, there's no secret to the Obama administration's cozy relationship with the Muslim Brotherhood and the amounts of how, from Ann Patterson and John McCain, and going in and arguing and trying to demonize the military so they can bring back the much worse Muslim Brotherhood, who were actually persecuting the Christians. The Muslim Brotherhood did actually, when Morsi was in power, was also a bit unprecedented. You didn't see the many attacks on churches that you're seeing now, but what you saw was a legalized form of persecution in the context of blasphemy that I was mentioning. And so just in the 1 year the U.S. was so fond of, at least a dozen Christians were attacked, in jail, and received in a court of law more than double the maximum penalty. And this didn't, now under Mubarak in 30 years, this maybe twice happened, even less. So you can see it was legalized. These were the allies of the that was on the holiest site of Coptic Christianity, St. Mark, which was besieged under Morsi's rule and bombed, and people were killed. And now you move to Syria, and it's the same exact thing. I mean, that's become the worst one for Christians. One of the most ancient Christian community in Syria right now is being butchered. This Ma'lula, where they just recently, Al-Qaeda went in and attacked, and it just started slaughtering Christians.
Let me interrupt for a minute, Raymond. The Christians that are being massacred in Syria, just so our viewers get this right, are being massacred by Assad or by the rebels Obama is directly supporting?
100% by the rebels. And the rebels are on record, and I've read this in real Arabic media, promising and vowing to the Christians of Syria, just wait until we get rid of Assad, you're all next. And so basically here's Obama talking about human rights to help us support guys who on the ground, in reality, are telling Christians, once Obama helps us, we're going to slaughter you all. And this is what this president is doing from one end of the Islamic world to the other. And the Christians are being killed. And then, like you say, he comes up, he has the audacity to justify war in the context of human rights abuses when he himself is responsible for some of the worst against Christians.
Raymond, would you say that Obama has blood on his hands in terms of the Christians that are dying from Islamic persecution in the Middle East?
I would most certainly. And, you know, I follow Egypt very closely, in the Egypt media and people and contacts that I know there. And never has the United States been so hated by Egyptians. Let me just qualify that and say the administration. I mean, when you even see the signs that people hold, they don't attack Americans. What they say is, "Oh, administration, that's stupid. What's wrong with you?" You know, and then they write to Americans saying, "Why are you letting this person support terrorism in our nation? You're having him support the same people that attacked you on 9/11.
Raymond, let me interrupt for a minute. I'm sorry. Now, when you look, we see these signs, but we see these signs because of brave journalists like you that send these signs to Front Page Magazine, and to other publications. Raymond, where are these signs depicted in news reporting by MSNBC, by CNN, by Anderson Cooper, where is the media coverage of the Egyptians standing up and screaming, saying, "Obama, stop supporting our persecutors"?
Absolutely right. And you know what? There was a day, Jamie, when I thought the media was just kind of blind or biased, but I reached the point that they are just, they are on board. They have a mission. They have a certain angle, a certain perspective, a certain narrative that has to be put out, and it has nothing to do with truth. And I'll just tell you what happened in Egypt. I was amazed because on the one hand I watched Egyptian media and local media and independent media and Christian media, and it was portrayed almost like a miracle. I mean, finally someone stood up to Morsi, and the people got what they wanted. You know, the millions that came
and
out.
And Obama was crying when that happened.
Yeah, and the media here was portraying it as some terrible military coup. Al Jazeera would actually photo the people, the millions who stood up against Morsi, and would show as people for Morsi to try to portray how much popularity he had. And even though there's almost 30 provinces in Egypt and 2 had unrest, Al Jazeera 24-hour would photograph those 2 and make it, if you don't know any better, you're going to think Egypt's on fire because Morsi. And then, of course, the mainstream media, like you mentioned, they follow that narrative. You know.
Raymond, I want to take this honor and privilege of having you here to talk a little about other aspects of Islam, because there's a scholar on this issue, and it's such a great privilege to just talk to the mind that you have and ask you some questions. Let's just center in on Islam for a minute and all these double standards. And I think that part of the reason why this is because the truth shatters sacred cows for the left. All cultures, well, in terms of what your book shows, all things are equal. Can you tell me, please, where in the world are Christians burning mosques? in the way that Christians are being attacked, let's say in Egypt, in Syria.
They're just not, and that's the whole point. I mean, just stop for a moment and think about what happened in Egypt in the last few weeks, where 80 churches, if one mosque, or just imagine 80 mosques in some country were just set on fire, that would be just plastered all over the media.
Front page of the New York Times.
And Obama would be screaming about, the intolerance of Christians for attacking, but not one word.
Not one word.
If finally they, some of them, the bigger ones, finally had to speak up.
The silence is shameful and shameless on part of our media and our administration, and the left is responsible for that. Raymond, please, very brief answers. Got about 5-6 quick things I want to ask you here. There is a taboo on these issues, and let's speak the truth a little bit about some things that the media just will not cover and our culture will not discuss. Rape gangs, the Brotherhood's rape gangs in Egypt. I have not seen any features on this on CNN or MSNBC, front page of New York Times, Washington Post. Tell us a little bit about what these rape gangs are about, and the legitimacy they find in Islamic theology.
Exactly, and that's the point. You see, it's not even limited to the Brotherhood. It's very popular in Syria. They have fatwas justifying rape. Fatwas are Islamic decrees. They have fatwas telling a Muslim man you can divorce your wife and send her to have to copulate with a jihadist, and you both go to heaven for that. And these are from Islamic scriptures, Islamic doctrines. None of this you'll see in the West. And when you do try to bring it up, I just translated a video of a popular Egyptian cleric, one of the guys very supportive, saying that any Muslim who's married to a non-Muslim, because Muslims can be married to Jews or Christians, females, has to hate her. But he goes, but they can love her for her look, they can love her for her money, you can love her for copulating with her, but he has to hate her. Why? Because it goes back to an Islamic doctrine, which teaches Muslims to have hatred for non-Muslims. It's in the Quran. But when you say this to to people in America who don't have a clue, they just think you're making it up. And even if they hear him, I translated the video, he's talking, they still can't believe it. And then they say, well, what does he know about Islam? He has a doctorate.
Well,
he's a sheikh.
Raymond, absolutely. And what's happening is because the left has indoctrinated culture, it's in control of culture, and we admit that there's an adversary. If there's an adversary culture, an adversary religion that's evil, then we might have to accept that our society is good and worth defending. That's not one. That's why this side, so it ignores the victims of adversary cultures and religions, and therefore excuses and Islam's crimes and theology into invisibility. We only have 1 or 2 minutes left. Raymond, what's on the horizon here? If things keep going the way they are, you're a Christian, I'm a Christian, it doesn't mean that we're just concerned for Christians. We're concerned for all humans. What's on the horizon with Islam rising, jihad rising the way it is?
The trick is this, Jamie. Jihad and jihadist sentiment beginning based on the more victories I have, the more you give in, the more I'm empowered, the more I threaten you, the more you give in, the more I have more confidence. It's a cycle, okay? It's might makes right. And so in as much as the West keeps, as you just said, whitewashing, saying, no, their culture is just as good as ours, if not better, and all these things, these are not taken by the jihadist mentality as, look, they're so polite, let me reciprocate. No, they're just taken at face value. These and that just validates what we're doing, and they do it more and more and more. Yeah. There was a time, believe it or not, where all this stuff subsided about 100 years ago, the colonial era, and it was because the West was not apologetic, and the weapon is actually Muslims off Islamic identity and Westernists. That's when you had to think about it. The Ottoman Empire, which was the scourge of what was the first Muslim country to become so secular, because the West was out of its own way, and so Muslims actually. And now it's the opposite. The West integrates itself and tells them your ways are the best.
We are committing suicide. Raymond Ibrahim, ladies and gentlemen, Crucified Again by Raymond Ibrahim. Get this book. And I just want to say, in a world of cowardice, in a world of shameless silence, thank you so much for the courage that you show in standing up for the truth for Christians throughout the world. Was often even overlooked as people like you are literally and I want to thank you very much for that, Raymond. Keep up the fight and keep the faith, and thank you for your fight.
Thank you very much, Jamie. I appreciate your very kind words. And you and Front Page and the Horowitz Center, of course, are doing more than your share.
Thank you, Raymond, and we'll see you again soon. And we'll also see our viewers of the Glazov Gang again very soon. Good night.
That worked out pretty good. Got well synced, and so we were able to watch the whole thing. It was a little lengthy, but man, it was informative. Can you imagine something like that being shown on American television? It's just not going to happen. That's for sure. And but it has had a really good article. It was embedded on there, and the text, and I accidentally shut it down so that I couldn't give the context for the video that we just played. But it went through this idea, or not this idea, but this thing that's being ignored. Well, there's an irony involved here. According to Chuck Baldwin, now you remember who Chuck Baldwin is. We played his videos before, and he was at the Bundy Ranch, and he's really considered the Patriots pastor. He's on the #1. He's probably the #1 individual that is on Obama's kill list. He's at the top. And if there was ever a Patriots pastor, he's the ironic thing, though, that he is saying and upbraiding the evangelicals, because he says it's the evangelicals themselves who are first in line to support the what he calls the welfare state. I have him on his article here that he just wrote that is very interesting, and I want to screen share that so that we can see what he's saying here about the evangelicals. He says, Christians, the title of it is Christians' Love of Warfare, of the Warfare State, is Killing Other Christians. When will evangelical Christians start to see through this charade? Ever since the George W. Bush administration, he writes, evangelical pastors and churches have been America's loudest cheerleaders for virtually every act of war the United States has waged against foreign countries. You know, the shock and awe, they like to see it and get home on television and watch it as they go against them and cheering, going after the bad guys. For pastors such as John Hagee, wars of aggression in the Middle East are predicated upon the notion of protecting Israel, even though military meddling by the United States has served to make the world more dangerous, or life more dangerous for Israel. But leaving Israel out of the equation, evangelicals are the first to trumpet U.S. wars of aggression. I would even suggest that the favorite hymn of most evangelical churches these days is no longer John Newton's Amazing Grace, but John McCain's Bomb, 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 Iran. I can't remember how it goes, the tune, but anyway, that one. I would go even further to say that evangelical churches have become the very best friend that the military-industrial complex has ever had. It is congressmen and senators from districts and states heavily laden with evangelical churches that continue to pump unlimited tax dollars into the warfare state. one could even make the argument that in most evangelical churches, Jesus's adage, "Blessed are the peacemakers," has been changed to "Blessed are the warmongers." And you know, the LDS Church is not immune from this, because we've been blinded into things. I remember President Hinckley saying, when 9/11, you know, came down and everybody was so patriotic and they signed into law the Patriotic Bill, which of course they had all ready to go, the Patriot Act, which took away our freedoms. And he said, well, maybe we have to give up some freedoms, you know, during the war. And of course it was supposed to be a war against terrorists. But of course that's not the case. And even he didn't realize the fact that they're taking our freedoms away from us, and that just like the Book of Mormon says, the voices from the dust in the Book of Mormon, that you know, they seek, the Luciferian globalists seek to overthrow the just a minute, I gotta stop a minute to click buttons. Gee. Now, what was I saying? Oh, and then I moved the screen so I could read the words better. Okay. Now, but you know, the voices of the dust warn us against the globalists, the Luciferian globalists, the secret combinations, and he says that we will know them because they will seek to overthrow the freedom of all the lands, nations, and countries. So here they're doing that, but their greatest cheerleaders, Pastor Baldwin says, are Christians. He's calling them the evangelicals, but it's them. I think the Mormons are involved and others as well. And so, but in the meantime, you see, they're demonizing. It gets complicated, right? Because then the Christian fundamentalists, unlike the Christians who are supporting the war, the fundamentalists who are awake now, and there's a lot of them, and realize what is happening, like Pastor Baldwin here, are taking things into their own hands, though. See, our knowledge is, and we're trying to get it out to them, as you know, as pathetic as our efforts are. You know, wouldn't it be great if we could have a pulpit like Pastor Baldwin has, and we'd be able to say, you know, listen, your path, like Isaiah says, point them to Isaiah, is not to go after these guys yourselves, but to trust in the Lord. Your only salvation is to repent and be baptized and be identified in the same covenant and to worship at the same altar as Israel, because the Lord will fight our battles. But because we haven't, and because we don't want Christ to rule over us, we've got this great wall swelling out in a breach that is ready to fall, Isaiah says. And so it's important to understand all these different elements that are going on, because there are those who are trying to, so to speak, take the law into their own hands. And that may not be have such a good result. Now, one indication of this, I didn't know about it, but before now, but it was, you know, not necessarily from, it's probably a Soros-sponsored organization out to demonize the Christians, because you know, that gives rationale for the things they're doing. But look at this. Remember now, yesterday we just heard the video where Sean McCraney was saying the Mormons were trying to take over the world. Now here in this article called Not the Illuminati, How Fundamentalist Christians Are Infiltrating State and Federal Government. And this is by, and I hate to use these terms left wing and right wing because we know how that is used to further the agenda of the globalists, because you see, as Pastor Baldwin decries the warfare state, that used to be the role of the left. They would decry the warfare state of the neocons, and then when they were in power, and then the right would decry the welfare state when the left was in power, right? And that worked. That got them a long ways, because the left and right are just two wings of the same bird of prey. But as that becomes clear, more and more clear, we see and understand that. We don't like to use this left-right paradigm, but then that guy in the video we just watched was using it, and probably doesn't know. But you got to peel back the onion enough to see that it's not a left-right thing. But here, these people are serving the globalist cause. Now, I want to read this. This is really interesting. Imagine that a little-known but increasingly powerful group of ideologues had hatched a plan to transform the United States into a Christian theocracy, hearkening back to the dark ages of Europe, a time when society was governed by the laws and officials of the Catholic Church. Of course, you'd think from this, man, they're going to be talking about the Jesuits. Wow, this may be good, right? But it's not to be. She continues to write, the author writes, suppose further that this plan had a scary simple strategy. I'm laughing because this is the strategy of the Jesuits. Recruit bright young law students, put them through an intensive indoctrination program, place them in plum internships across the country, and then watch as they swim upstream until they reach the top of the legal system, where they can create, enforce, and interpret laws according to a legal philosophy infused with fundamentalist Christian theology. Oh man, that's amazing, because it's so parallel to what although it's only on a small scale compared to what the Jesuits have done. But here they're turning the tables on the Christian fundamentalists. See? Well, she says, welcome to the world of the Blackstone Legal Fellowship, an annual program established in 2000 by the Alliance Defending Freedom, an Arizona-based nonprofit that is swiftly emerging as a major behind-the-scenes player in many of the nation's most controversial legal cases involving reproductive rights, sexual justice, they're calling it now, gone from social justice to sexual justice, and a vast range of other moral and social disputes. And so she goes on and she says, wow, they have assets like $40 million. Oh my goodness. I mean, like that is, it's just ludicrous when you see all this stuff going on. You see the Mormons getting blamed for trying to infiltrate the government. You see the fundamentalist Christians here getting blamed for trying to infiltrate the government and the law court, when all the from the very beginning the globalists have done that with the Jesuits in the lead, and have from the beginning, and have infiltrated and taken over the United States government and many other governments, and they have become a captured operation to carry out the end goals of the legal. I was going to say legal, they make it legal, but of the those residue of the heathen and Idumea who have taken over the government, and now they are appointing Muslims in every imaginable post of control and influence in the U.S. government. And so this little article is a sort of comic relief for that. Well, our time is up. We'll hope that you have a good day. We'd like to take some comments from people, but maybe we can do that next time. In the meantime, my prayer is that we'll all have the choicest blessings from God, and this I pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.